Ooh. We're doing Kawhi first?
Yeah.
If I had a way, I would run for the hills. Oh.
You set?
Yeah.
The game of the weekend did not occur on a football field, although we will be bringing you, of course, some coverage regarding the Falcons and the Patriots, and we enter, and I know this is going to be about the Spurs and the Cavaliers, because that was the best game of American sports this weekend.
Yeah.
American sports, just keeping it here, keeping it home country for this.
It was probably one of the best overall, I would say.
Just
You don't need
overall?
to keep it.
There was
keep
some
it home.
drama.
There was some Liverpool game was
drama.
good. There was some good
Arsenal
dramas.
had some drama.
Yes.
The Cavalry, man, tough match.
They
You see the tweet?
They played until there was no longer.
See the tweet that somebody sent us.
What did they say?
The Rangers are beating the.
We have started a revolution.
Oh, just wait. It's going to get better. We're bringing you part 2 soon. But the Spurs and the Cavs played a thriller in Cleveland that ended up in the Spurs winning. And one of the things that I saw a couple of reports about is that we know so much about the Spurs machine-like team chemistry, team offense, team defense, and Kawhi Leonard's. I guess now he's a beast because now he does it on the offensive end. That's what some people have been saying. Is like, wow, he's really turned into a beast. No, he's always been this way. He just keeps collectively adding more to his arsenal. Kyrie in the past has been a Spurs killer. Last time they faced off, he had 57 points. This time was held to a more modest total, but still had some devastating drives and finishes. Truly remarkable in the end. Francis, I know you watched this game, and do you think there's a big takeaway from this, or is it just more reassurance of the Spurs are not a team to mess with?
You had an example in the final quarter of 2 of the league's best players kind of going at each other as well. Like LeBron James hits, what was that, a 30-footer to force overtime. Where'd that come from? But then he also goes up the other end of the court and he forces Kawhi Leonard to miss his fadeaway jumper. So we have all these great players in the NBA, and it's interesting to see when 2 of the best face off directly against each other and they come head to head in contention. But I thought that the game overall was fantastic. I think overtime was a little lackluster. Like I believe there was 2 minutes that the Spurs didn't score. Like 2 minutes, I believe, 47 seconds towards the end. So and we're still able to win the game. But in comparison to regular play, I thought overtime was a little lackluster, but I think that's because both teams were a little tired and they didn't want to make mistakes, and it ended up being a mistake that cost the Cleveland Cavs, where I think Tyronn Lue just basically said, we botched it. We botched the play. We botched the play. But overall, great spectacle of basketball, a great indicator as to how the Spurs are not going to go away, and we can talk about the Golden State Warriors, and we can talk about how good the Cavs are in the Eastern Conference, but the Spurs are going to be there or thereabouts, as they always are.
No Tony Parker. And no Pau Gasol, and I actually think that's something, and I know it's just a one-game instance, it's just one against the Cavs, and I'm not Greg Popovich, nor will I even be 1/50th as knowledgeable about basketball as Greg Popovich is. But DeJounte Murray was kind of getting a couple, I think he got, 14? Oh, he played 22 minutes at point guard to fill in. He's a rookie, he's young, he's got legs. And they let him and Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge run the floor. And when you buy into that Spurs system, like Murray, I already believe has, you become a part of it and you start getting hockey assists. So Murray was a big part of not being the one guy to get the ball to Kawhi for that assist, but those hot passes to David Lee and then back to Kawhi started with him. And that's scary to see for any very young Spurs player to have already started to kind of figure out how he's supposed to play at such a young age, but also to fill in for Tony Parker and get a win, technically. I mean, I'm not giving him the win. Kawhi Leonard, I guess, deserves it in this case. LaMarcus Aldridge finished with 16, 12, and 7, and also hit a very clutch 3 from the corner. I don't remember LaMarcus Aldridge having that, so there's still these little things that surprise me about LaMarcus Aldridge. Kawhi had 41 points. It was a career high for him, and it was fun to watch him dissect his matchup when he was on offense.
Yeah.
You put any small guard on him, and he just simply would take you right to the rim and then have a floater to get there. If you put Tristan Thompson on him, he would just shoot over Tristan Thompson. If you tried to put a big on him, he'd spin around you, or he'd post up on any small guy. Like every matchup you sent Kawhi Leonard's way did not work.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on, obviously, throughout the rest of the season, and more case that, as much as we talk about Harden and Westbrook with all the numbers, and Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James are as much MVP candidates now, every year going forward, as they ever were. Kawhi Leonard last year was an MVP candidate, and he will be, quietly, for the next 5 years.
Well, quiet is the perfect way to describe the Spurs.
The
I mean,
Spurs player.
LeBron James actually came out. I like this quote, and he said he still marvels after all these years how they're able to fly under the radar. He said, "I think it's that they don't boast and brag about what they accomplished. They're not flashy. They just win, and they're consistent over there. But they've done a great job of just going about their business." And then Tyrone Lue echoed that and said, "Maybe Pop has it in his contract to fly under the radar. They're good every year." And I don't think the Spurs want to be loud, and I don't think they want anyone to take notice of them, because last year it was kind of embarrassing how focused the media was on the Golden State Warriors chasing the record, that they didn't even pay any sort of attention to the fact that the Spurs were chasing their own record in comparison to their own regular season. But they were happy. They didn't want to hold around their flag, saying we're going for the record, or boast about it, or talk about it in the post media, because Popovich has them drilled almost like a military. They have to go in and get their job done, and they don't talk about inner squad conflicts. They don't get involved with, like, when's the last time you heard, Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James were going at it on a beat?
I don't know if I've ever. I'm trying to think of a Spurs scandal.
Apart from Tony Parker cheating on Eva Longoria, how dare you? Apart from that, nothing.
Yeah, but think about that as the example. That kind of it dominated headlines, but was quickly swept under the rug because Pop's got just that control over his team environment. It's why. I mean, we're talking about. I don't know if he's the greatest basketball coach of all time, but if he's not the greatest, he's the second greatest.
Absolutely.
Or third at absolute worst. He's on your Mount Rushmore.
I remember it now. It was Tim Duncan breaks into this weird facial expression where his thing goes up the way. He smiled. That was it. On the court, that was the big controversy. It was insane. But yeah, I think the Spurs are more than happy to be that team that everyone just kind of underestimates as they go forward.
Spurs record. I think I have the Western Conference standings.
I think you do.
Playoff race. We don't need the playoff race.
That will be B06.
34-9, 7-3 in the last 10. They're not as good at home as they are on the road. This is but we'll continue with the Cavs here. No, we'll stick with this. They're better on the road. 18-4 on the road. That's all I wanted to see was for the Spurs, how efficient they've been.
Yeah.
And that was on the road, and that's a tough building to win in, is the championship building. And the Eastern Conference, my God, four wins separates you from facing the Cavs as the 8 seed or facing the Wizards as the 3 seed.
Yeah. It's a tight conference. I like it.
If the Wizards don't get home court advantage in the playoffs, they can't win a 7-game series if they don't get a home court advantage. I actually don't think they can. They've railed off 13 straight wins at home. Remarkable. Yeah. They go on the road and they look like a totally different team.
Put
some respect on Washington, Jason. Mia Khalifa's a fan. Comment below, like, favorite, and subscribe to the channel, to the video. You can give us a follow over on the Twitter and the Snapchat and the Instagram. It's all in the description box below. I already said that. That's where you can follow us.
Yeah, you can go in the description box.
Just go to the description box below.
We'll see you in there. If you haven't been around for a while, we have to tell you about Salt Bay. Yes, that was not something I mispronounced. That is actually something that's going on, because it deservedly so. A Turkish cook has been setting, I would say, meals on fire, Jason, and setting the internet on fire with the way that he handcrafts his dinner or other people's dinner.
I like how he finishes it
It's his
off.
finishes. The finishing
than-
technique is, it's miraculous.
It's up there with Emerald. Remember when Emerald was the most famous TV chef? At least in this country, he was, like Emerald Lagasse.
Did he finish well?
Well, he said bang. What was it? Bang?
Bang.
Bang. That was a big thing, and if that happened today, it would be the biggest meme ever.
Like the
right?
one,
bang,
like,
bam,
bam. Like the one
Bam.
guy in Step Brothers. Pow,
pow.
pow. Are you saying pow or pow? So this is the original Salt Bay video, by the way, for some context. I can watch it over again. He makes it look appetizing, and I'm also interested in figuring out how he finishes things in life like this as well. Do it.
Having some technical difficulties in the studio. It's
Yeah.
Monday, and things are breaking.
Yeah, the bolts can't handle the sexiness of Salt Bay. So it caught fire, of course. We were very late to the party, but there's a reason we're late to the party, because we waited until, of course, it crossed over to our beloved sport. Take it away, Bayer Leverkusen.
Well, we can't use this as some pictures.
Take it away, snap pics from Bayer Leverkusen.
So they ran over after the goal. We can't use the video. The Bundesliga comes after us. You know, like, I'm not going to make that reference. But they, use your imagination, Internet. But as you can see, they start doing it, and they drop the Salt Bay. But the best part was the commentator for the match himself. He goes, and what are they doing? I don't understand this celebration.
Where have you been, mate? You're not fit for that job. This is why you need anyone between the age of 18 and 26. Ah!
Whoa! Salt Bay can't. I don't think the studio can handle Salt Bay.
Anyone between the age of 18 and 26 to be commentating on these games, because you need to be up to date with Salt Bay. And it's also caught fire in amongst a sport that notoriously you wouldn't expect Salt Bay to catch on, but Ricky Fowler.
I think you're underestimating
the
power of Salt Bay.
I think I am. But Ricky Fowler happened to mix it with Salt Bay himself.
Yeah, he actually had him cook for him.
This'll be good.
So that's the most exciting part. So I guess here's the thing. First of all, at this point, you got to capitalize on yourself. You need to market yourself correctly. You shouldn't be wearing a white T-shirt anymore. You should be wearing a T-shirt of you. Salt Bay.
Oh, I like that.
You should be Salt Baying in every Snapchat.
Wearing a white T-shirt, like him wearing a white T-shirt, Salt Bay in it.
This is your ticket to glory.
He could start his own. I'm sure he already has his own sort of food chain. He may as well just start his own restaurant called Salt Bay.
It's not a bad name.
I would go into Salt Bay. Like, you just put it in a sentence. But where should we eat tonight? Oh, Salt Bay. He has good. Oh, I'm in.
It would catch on in LA very quickly, because what's the name of the salt fish? There's sushi.
Sugarfish.
Sugarfish. What's a sugarfish?
It's just sugarfish is sushi.
It's a type of sushi.
Yeah, well, that's not the actual sushi. It's just the name of the
Have
place.
you ever heard of that type of sushi?
Have I ever heard of a sugarfish?
Ever?
Yeah, it's called. What's that? I did a shit joke in my head. It was a sugary fish that you eat. It's candy.
Swedish fish?
There you go.
Monday morning.
Monday morning jokes don't flow.
Desk breaking.
Swedish fish.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what he said.
Chikori's struggling
Chikori's
with Mondays.
mad.
Struggling
Chikori's
with
mad
Mondays.
at us.
He's mad at us that the Patriots made the Super Bowl.
He's just,
But he's a Patriots fan.
He's the most upset Patriots fan. He's like, it's
It's expected.
Yeah.
I think we would get more of an emotional reaction if they didn't make the Super Bowl. But yeah, Salt Bay is catching on. I hope you enjoyed those snap pics of Salt Bay. Maybe we should actually buy a building, name it Salt Bay, and then he's got nothing else to do but come and work for us. Moneymaker, if you ask me.
Just please on the clip. One of those MMA fighters who's always in contention as the greatest of all time fighter, Anderson Silva, discussed that Conor McGregor's, quote, flaws are clear, end quote. Now, tantalizing headline.
Tantalizing indeed.
Some might say it's even possibly scathing towards McGregor. Let's get into the full context of exactly what Anderson Silva had to say via Guilherme Cruz of MMA Fighting. He has flaws. We all have flaws, and his flaws are clear. He defends well, but he doesn't have jiu-jitsu. The main thing is that he uses his movement and his opponent's movement in his advantage. He never puts himself in uncomfortable positions. Everyone who fought him put themselves in uncomfortable positions and weren't able to get back to comfortable positions again. And he finishes with, and I believe this is being translated from Silva's OG language. I think everybody has a chance. When you step inside the ring to fight, you have a chance. Of course, that if you're fighting Mayweather, people would say, oh, McGregor won't last a round, but we never know. I think Anderson Silva is correct in a couple of these points, friends. I'm curious what you think as well. I do think everybody has flaws. I don't think anybody's a perfect fighter, hence why, except I guess Mayweather, who's never lost, hence why most professional MMA greats still have a 1 or a 2 in the loss column.
I think that everyone has flaws. Conor McGregor's flaws have been displayed to the world. It's not secret. Like if he was unbeaten and he came out and said this, then more people would probably argue back. We're like, all right, well maybe I haven't seen his flaws because he's unbeaten as well. But what makes an athlete great is understanding your flaws and strengthening them so that they're not used to obviously as your main weakness. Nate Diaz exploited that Conor McGregor was unable to adjust weight and maintain the same level of, I would say, cardiovascular endurance. Let's say that. That makes sense. Because cardiovascular endurance just means he wasn't able to keep up that level of physical endurance throughout in the way that he was before.
Cardiovascular endurance means your heart's endurance in a fight.
Yeah, cardiovascular endurance.
I think you just mean endurance.
Cardiovascular
I don't think
endurance.
you need cardiovascular ahead of it.
I think you need cardiovascular endurance in
don't
everything.
think you need cardio.
In the context of this clip, we don't. I'm just trying to sound smarter, but you do need cardiovascular endurance in everything in your life, especially when you want to perform at a high level of intensity throughout. So I think McGregor's endurance was exploited in that. He fatigued a little earlier than expected, and when he took a couple of punches, he wasn't able to come back. So he worked on that, and that also highlighted other flaws where he tried to stand toe-to-toe consistently with a bigger man who had a longer reach and more power behind him. So he adjusted that as well. And that's why, as much as everyone claimed that the Nate Diaz fight, again, was in the balance, I thought it was just an exemplary example. The second one, an exemplary example of a person doing what they have to do to win a fight. It might not have been as glorious, but it was great.
I think you're alluding to the running thing. Go see a live MMA fight, please. I really believe those who say, and I can't generalize everyone into one category, but I get frustrated when I hear people say, well, that person ran the whole fight. I don't think they've ever been to a live fight. Now, I'm fortunate because we get to go to live fights, but I'm not saying, like, even if you go to any amateurish live fight, there is nowhere to run.
Yeah.
On TV, they do a very good job of actually making that ring or octagon look bigger than it actually is. Because in person, you have like 5 steps before you hit a wall. And then if you step to the right, you hit a wall. And if you go forward, you hit another wall. You are boxed, caged, octagoned in. There's nowhere to move. I think McGregor, and believe it or not, maybe because it's appropriate, the New England Patriots are very similar. Beating McGregor is like beating the New England Patriots. There's actually a pretty clear game plan. Executing that game plan is extremely difficult, and very few have been able to do it. That's why they don't tend to lose.
Yeah.
That's why they have a lot more W's than they have L's in their columns of wins and losses. I think there's a handful of fighters that can exploit Conor McGregor's flaws, but that just because you exploit the flaws, just because you put McGregor in an uncomfortable position, does not mean you just beat him. So a lot of this is coming back to the points where I think Anderson Silva makes sound points. I think Anderson Silva, again, like everybody else, is answering the questions that are being thrown to him while also trying to stay for one last little bit of time in the headlines as a fighter. He's fighting again, UFC 208, I'm pretty sure, in Brooklyn. And it's not going to be that exciting of a fight, but I would hope this is one of his last fights, and I would hope that if he could say this is his last fight, maybe we can get like a little standing ovation, roll the tape of like some of the greatest knockouts in the history of the sport. Good send-off, give it your all, and then walk away. Be a commentator, be a coach, whatever you want to do, because I'm sure there are hundreds of UFC fighters who can learn a thing or 2 or 10
From one of the
From
greatest.
Silva.
I
Hopefully
think
not
that,
taking steroids.
I think that as well, this is another example of taking part of the whole phrase or whatever conversation he had out of context. Like, his flaws are clear, but when you look at it, he basically says everyone has flaws. McGregor's are clear, but so is a lot of other fighters. There's no fighter in the UFC at the moment whose flaws aren't clear, I would say. Like, despite how many of them are very good and they do what they can to hide those flaws, when you watch these fighters perform consistently, everyone has flaws that are exploited by someone else. But exactly right, Jason. It's whether you exploit those flaws whilst able to kind of maintain the ability to not have your flaws exposed by another person. It's all about exposing each other's flaws. Conor McGregor's flaws were quite literally exposed to the world by Chad Mendes. He did it for 2 straight rounds.
That's true.
His,
But then
oh,
he
you can't
learned.
wrestle.
It's
You
been
can't
like
wrestle.
It's been like 2 years.
And then
you don't think he's trained.
And I was like, he can't wrestle, but you can get him to the ground, then what do you do?
No.
Like, because he didn't do anything.
He
So,
couldn't wrestle then. He's gotten
better at it now.
Slightly better at it now. If he goes to if he fought the equivalent to Daniel Cormier at the lightweight division, I think that would be bad.
Yeah.
The equivalent, not Daniel Cormier. He's like 50 pounds heavier than he is. I'm saying, not actually, but I'm saying like the equivalent of that might be a bad matchup.
Yeah.
But they don't have a Daniel Cormier equivalent in the lightweight division or featherweight division. Where is he fighting nowadays?
Who?
Is he just in weight division? Just all of them?
McGregor? I think it's just up to on whether or not he decides. I think the biggest concern for Conor McGregor and who I think could exploit those flaws a little bit more so would be Khabib. Only because I think he's almost like Khabib's like a surgeon, right? Because he's so specific in the way that he goes about his actions and he's able to obviously utilize his own technique, but he picks his moments. He's kind of patient in the octagon as well, and I think that he's not someone that's going to come in riled up as much as we've seen Jose Aldo do, as much as Eddie Alvarez playing into it. And I think that he'll rely on his technique more so. I'm not saying he'll go in and he would beat Conor McGregor, but it would be a very technical matchup. I think both of them would try to exploit each other's flaws whilst obviously highlighting what they're best
I
at.
very much believe that Khabib has the right mental state to fight Conor McGregor.
Because that's half the battle.
I think it's more than half the battle. I think it's 70%. In the UFC nowadays, it could be 75%. I talk to Robin Black and we talk about the mental state of being in that octagon. A lot of things change, and a lot of what you prepare for physically goes by the wayside when you're thrown a curveball and everything you train for. You get hit hard with a left hook and you go, fuck, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
Those are Robin's words, pretty much, paraphrasing his. With Khabib, I think he's got the right mental state of being because I don't think it's gonna get under his skin, the trash talk, as much as Eddie Alvarez played into it and Aldo played into it.
He took the bait.
And I think it would be entertaining as all can be, though. I'd like to see a Khabib fight McGregor more so than anything else.
So would I, and so would the world apparently, but there is some other fights that everyone wants a piece of Conor McGregor in the UFC, and Conor McGregor wants a piece of Floyd Mayweather. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Anderson Silva's comments. What do you think? Jason Rubin 91 on Twitter, Francis_Maxwell, and all other social medias in the comment section below. And we'll see you soon.